What if I told you the most dangerous thing in a survival situation isn't the wilderness? It's your gear. There's a reason Native Americans thrived for thousands of years without titanium fire starters or paracord, and it's not what the prepper industry wants you to know. Let's start with something most people think is impossible: cooking without a pot. The Lakota, Apache, and Cherokee did this for thousands of years. No metal, no cookware, just rocks and whatever container they could find. Here's how it works. You heat stones directly in a fire until they reach over 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Then, you drop those screaming hot rocks into water held in a bark container, a wooden bowl, or even an animal hide. Within minutes, rolling boil. And no, the container doesn't burn. Why? Because the water absorbs the heat before the flames can touch the material. Physics doing its job. No batteries required. But here's where most people mess up badly. They grab the wrong rocks, pick up a wet river stone, heat it in fire, and you've got yourself a grenade. Seriously, water trapped inside expands as steam, and that rock explodes like nature's frag bomb. I learned this the hard way. Still have a small scar on my forearm. Dry granite is your friend. It holds heat safely and transfers it beautifully. Now, why would you ever need this? 3 reasons. First, water purification. Boiling kills nearly everything that wants to make you sick. Second, you can make nutrient-rich broths from bones and scraps that would otherwise be useless. Third, some wild roots are straight up toxic unless you cook them thoroughly. Stone boiling handles all 3. The best part? No fuel canisters to run empty, no replacement parts to order, no extra weight in your pack, just heat, physics, and the land giving you exactly what you need. Your fancy camp stove has about 40 moving parts that can fail. This method has 0, but starting that fire in the first place, that's where things get interesting. The hand drill looks stupidly simple. 2 pieces of wood. That's it. 1 straight spindle about the length of your forearm, 1 flat fireboard with a small notch carved into it. Lakota and Apache peoples used this setup for thousands of years before some guy invented the match and thought he was a genius. Here's what actually happens. You spin that spindle between your palms. Fast. We're talking 800 rotations per minute, minimum. Your hands press down while they spin, creating friction right where the spindle meets the board. That friction generates heat. That heat creates tiny particles of wood dust. That dust collects in your carved notch. And then, magic. Well, physics. But it feels like magic. That little pile of dust hits around 800 degrees Fahrenheit and becomes a glowing ember. Drop it into a tinder bundle, blow gently, and you've got fire. No batteries, no fuel canisters, no frantically clicking a lighter that chose the worst possible moment to die. Now here's where it gets interesting. Your $40 waterproof matches? Completely useless once they're wet. I watched a guy at a campsite shake a soaked matchbox for 10 minutes like it owed him money. Meanwhile, a hand drill just needs 20 minutes tucked against your body to dry out. Body heat, that's your backup plan. The wood matters, though. Cottonwood, willow, yucca, soft woods that create friction dust quickly. Grab oak or maple and you'll be spinning until your grandkids graduate college. A skilled practitioner can produce flame in under 60 seconds. Most modern campers spend longer than that searching their pack for a lighter they definitely remembered to bring. But fire and boiling water only get you so far. You still need to drink something. All right? So you've got fire. You've got a way to boil water. But here's the problem nobody talks about. You need to actually find water first. And no, I don't mean stumbling onto a crystal clear stream like some movie character with plot armor. I mean real survival. Dry ground, cracked lips, that moment where you trade your car keys for a puddle. Indigenous peoples didn't carry canteens across the desert. They read the land like a newspaper. Cottonwood trees, they're basically neon signs screaming, "Dig here." Their roots won't grow unless water sits within 3 feet of the surface. Same goes for willows and cattails. If you spot a cluster of any of these, congratulations, you've found your well. But what if there's no obvious greenery? Watch the animals. Deer need water every single day. Their trails don't wander randomly. Multiple paths converging into a V-shaped point directly toward a drinking spot. Follow that V like it's a treasure map, because it literally is. Here's one most people sleep through, literally. Morning dew. Take a bundle of absorbent grass, tie it around your ankles, and walk through a meadow before sunrise. Wring it into a container. Repeat. Some survival instructors have pulled over a quart of clean water doing this. While everyone else waited for rescue, you're hydrated by breakfast. The Tohono O'odham people survived Arizona's Sonoran Desert for centuries. Their secret? Barrel cacti hold emergency water in their pulp. Not delicious, but definitely not death. And birds. They're GPS with feathers. Flying low and straight at dawn means they're heading to drink. Circling birds are hunting. Big difference. Nature's been providing directions this whole time. Most of us just forgot how to read them, but finding water is only half the battle. Now here's where it gets almost ridiculous. You can literally steal water from plants while they're still alive, and they won't even notice. Grab any clear plastic bag, wrap it around a leafy branch, tie it tight at the stem, walk away. That's it. That's the whole method. See, plants are constantly pulling groundwater through their roots and releasing moisture through their leaves. It's called transpiration. Happens all day, every day. Normally, that water just evaporates into thin air. But trap it with plastic? Now it collects in the corner of your bag like nature's water bottle. One bag, one branch. 8 hours. You're looking at 1 to 2 cups of perfectly drinkable water. I tried this last summer with a willow tree in my backyard. Felt like a genius when I came back to find actual water pooled up. My neighbor thought I was performing some kind of plant ritual. Let him wonder. Western tribes figured this out centuries ago using animal bladders and intestines stretched over shallow pits. Same principle. The sun heats moist soil, water evaporates upward, hits the membrane, condenses, drips into a collection point. Basically, a desert water factory running on sunshine. Quick warning though, stick to green, non-poisonous leaves. Anything with milky sap, skip it. That white stuff can make you violently sick. Oleander, spurge, manchineel, all bad news. If you wouldn't eat the leaf, don't drink its sweat. Here's what kills me about modern survival gear. Your $80 water filter has ceramic elements that crack, membranes that clog, pieces that get lost in your pack somewhere between panic and desperation. A plastic grocery bag works indefinitely, weighs nothing, fits in your pocket, but water only keeps you alive. Food keeps you moving. Let's talk about the grocery store you've been mowing every weekend. Cattails. That brown fuzzy thing growing in every pond, ditch, and swamp across North America. Native Americans called it the supermarket of the wetland, and they weren't exaggerating. 7 edible parts. 7. The roots taste like potatoes when roasted. The young shoots eat like cucumbers. The pollen works as flour. Even the white base of the leaves is crunchy and mild. One plant feeding you from spring through winter, and you've been driving past them to buy celery. Then there's the dandelion situation. Americans spend $4 billion annually poisoning dandelions with herbicides. Meanwhile, those same plants contain more vitamin A than carrots, more iron than spinach. The entire thing is edible. Leaves, roots, flowers, free salad, everywhere, all season long. Your grandma probably knew this. Ask her sometime, but here's my personal favorite. Pine needle tea. 4 times the vitamin C of orange juice. Kept entire tribes from getting scurvy during brutal winters. All you need is a handful of green needles, hot water, and 10 minutes. I make this stuff whenever I go camping now. Tastes like Christmas and smugness mixed together. My buddies think I'm weird until they're on their 3rd cup. The inner bark works too. That layer just beneath the rough outer bark, it's called cambium. Pure emergency carbohydrates. Dozens of tribes survived harsh winters scraping this stuff off pine trees. Not delicious, but calories are calories when you're starving. Acorns fed more Native Americans than any other single wild food. 1 acre of oak forest produces more usable protein than 1 acre of cattle pasture. All of this just sitting there, growing, waiting. But knowing what to eat means nothing if you can't catch the protein that runs away. Let's talk about catching dinner without a single piece of metal. The figure 4 deadfall trap. 3 sticks, 1 heavy rock. That's it. This design has been dropping rocks on rabbits for over 10,000 years. Your great times 1,000 grandfather used this exact method. Physics doesn't need software updates. Here's how it works. 3 sticks carved with simple notches locked together under tension. A flat rock balances on top. Animal bumps the trigger stick reaching for bait. Rock falls. Dinner served. I built my first one behind my house last summer. Caught a squirrel while I was inside watching television. The trap worked harder than I did. My kind of hunting. But here's something nobody tells you about eating wild game. Rabbit starvation is real. Sounds made up, right? It's not. Eat nothing but lean meat without fat, and your body starts breaking down. Pioneers died from this. Full bellies. Still starving. The protein actually poisons you without fat to balance it. Native hunters knew this. They ate the organs, the marrow, the fat around the kidneys. Everything modern hunters throw away was the actual survival food. Fish weirs worked even better for consistent calories. Woven branches funneled fish into shallow pools where you could grab them barehanded. Imagine a funnel made of sticks. Fish swim in, can't figure out how to swim back out. You reach in and grab dinner like you're shopping at a tank. And the atlatl, this wooden spear thrower increased velocity by 60%. 17,000 years of use before bows became popular. One stick making another stick deadlier. Simple multiplication, one deadfall costs nothing. Works while you sleep, catches food 24 hours a day. But catching food means nothing if you freeze to death first. Now, let's build a bedroom from garbage. Not actual garbage. Forest floor garbage, dead leaves, broken sticks, the stuff your neighbor spends weekends bagging and cursing. That mess becomes a shelter warmer than most sleeping bags money can buy. The debris hut, ridgepole leaning against a stump, ribbing sticks angled down both sides like a skeleton. Then, pile leaves, 3 feet thick minimum. Why 3 feet? That thickness gives you an R value around 20. For comparison, your house walls probably hit R13. You're literally building better insulation than your contractor did. And he charged you plenty. Here's the trick nobody mentions. Size matters, but backwards. Make it small. Just big enough to crawl inside and roll over. Anything larger wastes your body heat filling empty space. Think coffin, not cathedral. Morbid, but effective. The Ojibwe built these in blizzards. The Cherokee threw them together during unexpected cold snaps. 2 hours. No tools, just hands and determination. Meanwhile, modern campers spend 45 minutes arguing about tent pole assembly instructions written in 3 languages, none of them clear English. Always face the entrance away from wind. Seems obvious until you're shivering at midnight wondering why you didn't think of it. And if you're feeling ambitious, stack logs into a wall behind your small fire. Heat bounces off that reflector straight into your shelter. Free radiator. Your $300 tent weighs 8 pounds. Needs poles you will inevitably lose one of. And when temperatures drop below its rating, it becomes an expensive body bag with mesh windows. Debris costs nothing, weighs nothing to carry, exists everywhere forests exist. Shelter keeps you alive. But what keeps you comfortable? Animal skins did that job for thousands of years. Brain tanning sounds disgusting. Is disgusting. Also happens to be the most effective leather-making process ever invented. Here's the weird part. Every deer carries exactly enough brain matter to tan its own hide. One brain, one hide. Nature's math is honestly a little creepy sometimes. The Lakota figured this out centuries ago. They'd mash up the brain, rub it into the raw hide, and work it for hours. The lecithin oils in brain tissue penetrate the fibers permanently. Your expensive leather jacket, chemically treated with synthetic oils that eventually dry out and crack. Brain tan buckskin stays soft for generations. My grandfather had a pair of moccasins from the 1940s, still supple, but leather takes time. What about quick insulation? Milkweed fluff, that white cottony stuff floating around every autumn. Tribes stuffed it into footwear like nature's Thinsulate. Gram for gram, it insulates as well as goose down, and geese are considerably harder to catch. Then there's yucca, those spiky plants covering the Southwest. Strip the fibers, weave them into sandals, and you've got footwear that archaeologists have found intact after 9,000 years. 9,000. Your running shoes fall apart in 18 months, maybe 24 if you baby them. Buffalo robes worked both directions. Fur facing in meant warmth. Fur facing out meant water resistance. One coat, 2 functions, no zipper to break, no synthetic membrane to delaminate, and cattail fluff. Same plant that feeds you also insulates your clothing, dresses your wounds, and diapers your children. Multitasking before multitasking had a name. All this comes from paying attention, watching which plants shed useful fibers, which animals wear the best coats. Speaking of paying attention, those same observers noticed something else about plants. Some of them cure what ails you. Willow bark. Your ancestors chewed it for headaches. Bayer turned it into a billion-dollar industry. Here's what happened. The active compound in willow bark is salicin. Your liver converts it into salicylic acid. Sound familiar? It should. That's basically aspirin. Native Americans figured this out through trial and error over thousands of years. Bayer figured it out in 1897 by studying what Native Americans already knew. But willow bark isn't some primitive backup plan. It actually works gentler than the pill version. Slower absorption means fewer stomach problems. I keep dried willow bark in my pack. Haven't bought aspirin in 6 years. Then there's plantain, not the banana, the weed your neighbor poisons every Saturday morning. Chew up a leaf, slap it on a bee sting or spider bite, and watch the swelling drop. It draws out infection like a tiny green vacuum. I've used this on my own kids. Works faster than the stuff in tubes. Yarrow earned the nickname soldier's woundwort for good reason. It stops bleeding and fights bacteria at the same time. Dual action. No prescription needed. Achilles supposedly used it on his troops. Whether that's true or not, the chemistry checks out. And here's something wild. The Ojibwe treated diabetes symptoms with wild bergamot. Seemed like folklore until modern researchers actually tested it. Turns out it genuinely affects blood sugar regulation. They knew. They just couldn't explain it with molecules and lab coats. Over 25% of modern pharmaceuticals trace back to plants that indigenous peoples used first. We didn't discover these medicines. We repackaged them. Plants can heal you, but they can also guide you. Because the same people who read plants for medicine, they read the sky for direction. Moss grows thicker on the north side of trees. You've probably heard that one. But here's what nobody tells you. It only works reliably in dense forests where sunlight gets blocked evenly. In open areas, moss grows wherever it's damp. Could be any direction. Following that rule blindly has gotten people more lost than found. So what actually works? Prevailing winds. Trees lean away from the dominant wind direction. Grass lays flat the same way. In most of North America, wind blows west to east. Find enough bent trees pointing the same direction, and you've got yourself a compass that never needs batteries. But the real navigation hack? Look up. Polaris sits within 1 degree of true north. It hasn't moved in 15,000 years. It won't move tonight. Every other star rotates around it like a slow cosmic clock. The Cherokee, the Pawnee, the Inuit, they all used it. Same star, same method, still works. And here's where it gets interesting. Animals predict weather better than your local news station. I'm serious. When birds go quiet in the middle of the day, something's coming. They feel barometric pressure drops 12 to 24 hours before storms hit. Frogs croak louder when rain approaches. Deer feed heavily before bad weather because they know they'll be sheltering soon. Native trackers didn't have weather apps. They had frogs. And honestly, the frogs were more accurate. Your $200 GPS needs satellites, charged batteries, and clear signal. The sky needs exactly nothing. It's been up there working perfectly since before humans existed. Seems almost rude not to use it. Nature gives you medicine, navigation, weather forecasts, food and water and fire. But here's the real question. Why did we forget all of this in the first place?